We have a pretty small group, and I'm looking forward to hear Gary's story, why he's here and what did he think he's doing. But before that, there's been chatter among leadership about where we go next year. In particular, that came up competitions and how we should be dealing with competitions, what themes should be, etc. There's pushback on how things have been scored, how the judging's done, and I want to be sure everybody knows that they can send email to leadership to have your view considered. We'll be coming up with an updated survey that'll come out probably in a couple of weeks. I've made a first pass through it and going to let somebody else have another pass at it. Be sure everybody's views are included in that. Among that will be, what do we want for competition themes? Do we want this many competitions? Do we want to do something on first Thursday that's not a competition? There's discussion that we need to train and provide more education for the basic shooters, give them some stuff to work with. We also have a competition that we've been invited to compete with APPA. I have written a how to mat images piece, so people that want to compete and want to know how to mat the images. And I'll tell you, my mat isn't anything fancy, but it's good enough and clean enough that it won't cost you any points in the competition. It hasn't been posted. I'll give it to Ed. I've given it to Nick and let Dennis both read through it, and I'll post it. There was a discussion at our last meeting about cost of competition. When I dug into it, and it wasn't published on the website, I had to go to competition coordinator. She was going to charge us $10 more than members. And I said I could not, in good faith, promote the competition if they charged us more than they charged the members. So it looks like right now it'll be $10 to compete, plus $5 if you want a written critique or an oral critique. And I'm not sure what they're offering, but a critique of your image. Yes, sir.
$10 per picture?
Per image.
$50. You're going to do the 5 that they suggest.
If you put in 5 images, it'll be $50.
$5 extra.
$5 for each critique that you want. Yeah. Now, I got a question earlier about this. You can submit 5 images, but we'll only count 4. The only count 4 is for best print case. So they simply take your 4 highest scores out of all the images that you've entered, and that rolls up to be best print case. And print case comes from when you actually had physical prints in the competition. So if you wanted to compete full out, do maximum, you'd enter 5 images, and those would go together in a print case. So your best 4 would be there. I'm going to enter my 4 from Texas school and find 1 more to go with them. As part of preparing the stuff for PPA print competition and matting's the big thing that we're going to have to do different than the way we compete. I've written that up. It'll be available. It has pointers to all 3 organizations that I'm aware of that have image competitions, which would be NAPfS, APPA, and Texas PPA. And they all differ just a little bit. But their bottom line, they're all UHD TV format, 3840 by 2160 pixels. And the mat that goes with that's your creativity. Dennis has gone through and looked online and learned how to do it. I just went through what I've done and wrote it down so it's easy to follow, because it's just the simplest mat you can put on an image that doesn't cost you points. If you look at the way they compete, and I'm going to refer to a document here. Though there are 12 elements of a mirrored image, impact is the item that's listed as absolute most important. If you don't have impact in your image, if it doesn't grab somebody's attention, it's probably not going to get a merit level score. Technical excellence is second. Composition and creativity are the other attributes that they look at. Technical excellence is more like a place to lose points. If you have things around the border, banding, sensor spots, they only hurt you. The things that they would look for as a place to succeed would be lighting. And if you have something that you've lighted, like we had an image last competition that was lit with strobes up close, and that was very well done. And that would have gotten points for technical creativity. The other thing that's happening is there's been discussion on the leadership communications about what we do for competition. And that's within the club competition. How do we want to judge that? There are really two organizations that do judging and competition. There's PPA, which has their 12 elements. They have a merit image review, which is the national place that you send your images to be scored. This is where PPA members would get merit images towards their master photographer, et cetera. PSA is more of, are you selected for this show? You get selected for show, you get points for that, and you get some sorts of little titles to go with that. We have ended up going down the PPA path in NAPfS because we have all of the PPA 12 elements of a merit image. We use the numeric scoring. Going PPA back to their merit image review, they have basically 4 ratings the image could get. Not worthy of merit, could merit if improved, merit image, or, and I've forgotten what they call well above a merit image. Texas PPA calls it sealed for merit, distinguished for the next step up, and excellence or excellence for the top level of images that they score. I think that's all I've got to say about that. If anybody has any information they want to get added to the survey, go ahead and send that to leadership and we'll get it incorporated. Yes, sir.
So the money that goes to this PPA, the money that goes to the PPA competition, where does that money go? Is it for charity or anything?
Part of it goes to pay the judges. They will have 3 PPA certified judges go through the images. And if you go to, and I'd suggest everybody in the club go to the November 2nd meeting, which will be at Austin Beer Works. The judges will be there. We'll be able to hear their conversation, hear them score the images, and they will provide their critiques later. So you'll get to see a real, honest PPA merit image review there. And that's free. Buy your own beer
So you go watch it.
to go watch it.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I thought Dennis had a question. Verlin, you're standing up like you've got something to say.
Of course I do. So, one, light painting is a thing this week. These are light painting brushes. You use them on a flashlight and it will color, and you can make yellow light or green or whatever. These I don't need because I have a flashlight that's any color I want it to be. So anybody who wants them, you can come collect them at your leisure. So you can use any little flashlight. You'll have to work to attach them because there's a rubber thing that you use to attach them that I use for other things, not those. But you could do it with painter's tape if you wanted to. Yeah, anything like that. So if you want to experiment with those with light painting, you don't have to go buy them from light painting brushes. They're right there. Obviously the show at Water to Wine is coming to a close. November 1st, but we have the the social on the 5th Thursday of this month. So everybody remember, be there, bring snacks, don't bring drinks because they want to sell us wine.
So where is that at?
Water to Wine, it's right next door to El Dorado. It's about 2 blocks from Precision Camera.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, Spicewood and Shoal Creek, I think.
Yes.
Something like that.
Anderson.
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
Anderson Lane, I guess, on that
Uh,
side.
It'll be on the 30th.
Yes.
Yes, the day before Halloween.
That's the
Okay.
Thursday, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so we have that. The Jester Show is fast approaching. So get your prints in order for them. Remember that the Jester Annex wants really big prints, so be prepared for that. If you have your 30 by 40s on hand, this is the time.
When is the Jester Show? And when do we need to get an image in?
Uh, um, yeah, it's on the website. It's January to March.
Okay,
And obviously we'll have to have our ducks in a row before January to put the
Yeah.
stuff up. And we should have a gallery up now for the Jester Show. Is that correct, Ed?
Yeah.
Okay. Then soon we'll have a gallery up for the Jester Show so that you can submit the pictures to them. There's plenty of room, so there, it should be possible for everybody to get at least one picture up.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Patrick, you got anything for us?
yeah, I'll come around it. Let's see. Next month, I've got our own Carol Schiraldi coming back to talk to us again. She started at the beginning of the year with some marketing information and social media type of things for getting pictures out. And she will be following up with kind of like a phase 2. It's like marketing 201 instead of 101. And I'm working on the January presentation. And I haven't, I've contacted the person, but I haven't heard yet whether they could do it or not. So that's where I'm at the moment.
Okay.
Rambles?
Brief reminder that Saturday, a week from Saturday, right? Today is, yes, a week from Saturday is the outing to the Main Street Car Show in Taylor. So we'll meet out there at 9 o'clock in the morning. If you want to shoot cars, should be great. If you don't want to shoot cars, there's lots of Taylor. So anything you want, and we'll coordinate. We'll figure out when we're going to meet back together and maybe go have a late breakfast, early lunch, whatever. Yes, sir.
Have you been to that before? I mean, you know how it's set up?
I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea. This is
I have family that's been there and it's a big show.
Outline down the street?
I am presuming Main
There's-
Street will be packed. Yes.
Yes.
They're on all the streets.
Yeah, lots.
Okay.
So how hard is it for us to park when we go?
Not in Park Close.
Okay. So hopefully being there at 9 will help a little bit, but yeah. So carpooling is probably a good idea. Yeah. On the south side? Okay. 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 Yeah, so we'll do that. And then the following Tuesday, Guadalupe River State Park, for those that are interested, we'll go out to meet at La Frontera at 6, head out by 6:15. It's almost 2 hours to get down there. You can't get in before 8 o'clock. So we like to be there right when the gate opens and get up to the river bend while the light is still good. It's lots of fun. No idea what to expect this year. It changes every year. So, yes, sir.
Is this? Just don't know about the podium, but
I have no clue. I will check the Texas Parks and Wildlife website, but in my looking around to double check the day passes, et cetera, I have not seen anything indicating that it was closed in any way.
Clay, I believe it's below Canyon Dam. So it wasn't affected by the flood because the dam caught the flood and most of that rainfall was right on the area that was affected. It was a very localized event.
Cool. Okay. So it should bode well for
Yep.
us.
Okay, Gary, why are you here?
Wait,
I
Larry,
just read on their website,
pardon?
and I just read on their website.
That just under half of the park was affected by the flood.
Okay,
But everything is considered safe and it's in good shape right now
and open.
and it's open. And they just recommend that people be extra careful because there could be soft spots or sinkholes where people might be able to step into and
Okay.
have an issue.
So we'll want to be extra judicious wandering around. So, okay, thank you, Larry. Okay,
You ready, sir?
ready to go?
Why are you here?
Hmm?
Why are you here?
Why am I here? No, it's
No,
where
you-
and how
How'd
did
that get here?
I don't know that I necessarily need an introduction because you all know who I am. Thanks for being here tonight. I appreciate it. I'm going to stand while I do this and move around a little bit because that's what I do. Wanted to just tell a little bit about my history here for those of you who haven't heard me talk about a lot of this. But I want to start off by saying this is not about looking at my photographs and talking about how great they are. That is not what we're doing here tonight, okay? Okay. We've had plenty of that this year, and it's not me. What I hope to do is to share my work and the progress and the things I've learned as I've gone along. Because I think, personally, I think it's a little bit more interesting, and I hope you will too. In 45 minutes or so, you let me know, okay? There's a lot of photographs here. We're going to go through them quickly. It's not about looking at them in detail. It's about seeing what I've done and talking about why I've done it. So I will start with a little bit of background. I am not a film photographer. When I started with anything past a point and shoot, or to be fair, a Kodak 126 camera. Do y'all remember those? Okay, I was a kid, I had that, okay, and played with it. It was fun. But it wasn't anything that caught my attention, wasn't anything I stuck with. But we got our first camera that was more than a point and shoot, probably early 2000s. And so 2005, I did some things. One of the things I did was I got to go to Scotland, and I took the camera with me and did some things with it that involved learning about macro, which I hadn't known anything about before. I didn't really understand what I was doing. Just looking for various things that caught my eye and took pictures of. Most of these are not great photographs. They break down after a while because they were JPEGs, you know, because I didn't know what I was doing. But, you know, just looking for things that catch my eye. I worked with that camera for a while until I got frustrated with a 4-megapixel Panasonic Lumix, and I got frustrated with the quality of the images, and I set everything aside. In 2012, my daughter, my youngest, who is a dancer, was involved in a studio where you could take pictures of her dancing during performances. And my wife had a point and shoot that she was using. She was a photographer in the family. And she was very frustrated because if you've ever used a point and shoot and tried to do stage photography, the two do not go together very well. So my wife said to me, do you think you could figure out how to take good pictures of her on stage? And I said, sure. She said, do it. Like, winner, winner, chicken dinner, right? Like I get a blank check here to do what I need to do. With a friend's help, I picked out a DSLR. It happened to be Nikon. That's how I got into Nikon. I'm happy with it. I have no complaints. It's all good. So in 2012 was when I really started taking photographs. I got a trip to Italy that year for work, to doing things. I also discovered at the same time things like artistic editing software. So I learned about doing things like this to photographs. Had a good time messing around with stuff. That's Aspens in northern New Mexico, Rancho de Taos, doing things like that. Liberty Bell, get to go there again another month. George Washington, San Jacinto Monument, things like that. So I'm playing, I'm experimenting, I'm learning. 2013, I start working on dance photography, get permission from the director to be there and taking pictures of them, and start looking at doing stage work and trying to figure out the hard part. It turns out dance photography is one of the hardest things you can do. It's very, very difficult in many ways because of light, movement, depth of field, things like that. But I worked at it and tried to figure out what to do, learning various things, trying to capture leaps and things like that. Mostly what I'm trying to do is make pretty pictures here, right? The goal is to make pretty pictures because mama likes to see her baby, okay? So I was doing some studio work for some people, not a lot of that, not really wanting to pursue that, but having fun with it nonetheless. Just working on trying to get good pictures of them on stage in context while they're moving around. And it turns out that's really hard to do. I would typically go home with 2,500 shots in a show, right? Of which at beginning, I got 200, and then I upped my percentage after a while to get better at it, and we took fewer shots and more successful shots. So over time, I got better at it, learning to watch the choreography, figuring out what to do to anticipate things. So we're waiting for the decisive moment here. Now, although I didn't realize it at the time, I didn't know what I was doing. I just went, I need to find the right moment. Okay. I didn't discover Henri until later on. So more stuff like that, lots of stuff. And as it's gone on, these are more recent shots, just getting better at getting that really good shot. During that time, I decided I was interested in portrait work, and I thought I would maybe do some portrait work for money, because it turns out when you do things for money, people pay you to buy your toys. So that was a really cool system. Okay. So I worked on that a little bit, practicing with various people, trying to do different things as far as style, interpretation. You all have seen this. I had this in the oldies thing one year, friend's baby, another baby. You know, I like, babies are great. They just take a lot of work. You know, just co-opting my friends, doing different things. Whatever catches my eye. Pardon? Yeah, so this is called Mallard Moon. This is what I named it. Out in Galveston, looking at the egrets, fishing, catching a fish, things like that. Learning about macro, got a macro lens, things like that. So looking at various things. That herpetarium is the one in Galveston, I think. I forget what, but I somehow got a good picture through the thick glass of that guy. That's the Dallas Aquarium. So, you know, doing animals, wildlife, things like that, captive, whatever. Starting to look at vegetation, et cetera, looking at the way I can interpret what I find in a way that makes it interesting and hopefully draws people in. Studying patterns, things like that. Trying to get the succulent shot that everybody manages and I have trouble with, you know, it's all good stuff. So I'm experimenting, trying to figure out what it is I want to do, what it is that's attracting me, where I want to go, and how I want to photograph. So 2014, I discovered going to bands, going down to the Elephant Room, for example. Big fan of that place, and taking pictures of musicians. As a trained musician, this is attractive to me. So my goal was to try to capture the moment of the musicians, where I guess the way I put it is, if you can't hear the music when you look at it, I didn't take a good picture. Okay, so I feel like some of these are fairly successful. Some people that are relatively famous, that's Kim Warner, A Strange Brew. Friends I met through Elephant Room, this particular band. He was the jazz composition instructor at the University of Texas. And I got hooked up with him and did some work with him. It's lots of fun. Well, I'm going around starting to see more things. So I'm seeing lots of different stuff here. I like benches and chairs, lots of benches and chairs, what have you. Patterns, trying to become a cognitive pattern. So I'm trying to hit on all the things we hear about, right? Your things you're supposed to look for when you're out looking, okay? The whole point of this is I'm in the process of learning how to see this stuff, right? So 2014, I'm starting to get better at seeing things, little things that break up the scene, you know, the little leaf there in the light, the pattern, and again, I'm messing with the images and doing some editing on them, things like that. Things that catch my eye, colors and shapes and what have you. That's as close to the iconic shot of a guy in Ireland with his dogs as I could get. I wanted something iconic, but that was as close I could get. Doing things out in public. This is not a composite. This is actually a single shot, just trying to line things up. So again, seeing things and trying to get yourself in position to where they fall together, even though it's kind of weird. This is a manipulated image of a piece of a car from Pistons on the Square. Various things in shadows. I showed this one day in my other group, and the question was, why is it pink? And I said, because that's the color of the Adobe wall. Okay, that was actually the color of the wall, and I saw the tree and the wall and thought it was fantastic, so I got a picture. Looking again for minimalism, just seeing what catches my eye. Just a lamp and a book in a coffee shop, various things like that. So I'm just trying to do stuff. A lot of this isn't necessarily chronological, but I'm showing you as I started in these years where I began and how I've progressed in that. So 2015 was my second year at the Balloon Fiesta in Albuquerque. I think first year, 13, 14, no, my third year. My second year taking photos. And so I was trying to do things interesting with the balloons, trying not to overprocess them. Was not successful about that, obviously. Having fun. This is this actual balloon that I messed with as well in post. Viewpoints, colors, things like that. Pardon me? Okay, I said I'm going fast. Okay, so just having fun with the balloons from different perspectives. A lot of these I think are probably taken in the air. I think I was actually up in the air for these. Having fun. At the same time, going to White Sands in New Mexico, visiting White Sands because I didn't do it as a kid when I lived there, so I got to go back and do it as an adult, and trying to find interesting shapes in White Sands that represent the place, trying to capture the place. Some of you have seen some of these. That one has been in the competition. So I'm going through all this, and I realize that while I'm getting better at what I do, I'm not happy with what I do. I keep raising my bar, right? So what I finally figured out to say to myself was, I'm getting better and better at what I do. All my photos suck, right? So I've got this dichotomy in my head all the time that I'm never happy, but I'm always trying. I'm always interested in trying to do better, okay? So this is a little vulgar, I know, but it is the way it came to mind the first time I put the pieces together. My goal is to improve my work, and we're going to get more into that later on. So 2016, I just keep doing stuff, going places. I discovered lens babies in 2016. I went back and figured out what the date was. So this is where I discovered them. It's the first lens I got from them, and was up in New Hampshire and found this in a forest. Just playing with things, just different effects and what have you. So I love this because this is in focus and this is in focus, okay? But they're not the same distance from the camera. So lens babies are lots of fun. Very doing their thing. You've seen this, right? This was just, where is that? Yeah, okay. Yeah. So you've seen this one too, right? So that was fun. That was kind of how 2016 went. In the process of doing all this, somewhere along this time, I realized that we learn by rote. People learn by rote. This is what happens, repetition, right? Which means we do not learn by being successful. So we have to embrace our failures, right? And I think photography is fundamentally failure, but wanting to keep doing it because A, it's fun, and B, we have an idea in our head of what we want to accomplish, okay? We're not, the hard lesson for me, and I think for most photographers is, we are not going to make every picture a masterpiece. It simply is not going to happen, right? Okay, and all your friends on Instagram will let you know. Okay, they're not going to like all your photos, right? So we have to be able to accept that we're going to produce a lot of very poor images, okay? But we have to learn from that because the idea is to look back and understand Where was I not successful? What can I do better next time? What can I look for? What can I be aware of, et cetera? I think this is a good thing about being in competitions as well, and getting judging feedback, because they will help you see things you're not going to see necessarily readily on your own. Okay. Okay. So this implies that learning the truth can be challenging. You don't know what you don't know, right? We're all in a process of figuring stuff out. We don't know what we don't know. By the same token, if you want compliments, go ask your mother. Okay, which is not nice, I know. Okay. Mostly I say this to myself, okay? It's like I'm not here for the compliments. I'm here to do the best job I can. And I don't expect other people to give me warm fuzzies for that. That's not my goal, all right? Yes, we're up to 2017 now, so it's been 5 years that I've been shooting, right? Been shooting 5 years now, and finally learning the hard lesson of, I'm not here for everybody else, I'm here for myself, right? So we tried doing different things. We're looking for different compositions, trying to find different moments that might have some meaning for somebody else other than myself. Some of these that you're looking at have been judged by other people with far more skill than I have, and done well, reasonably well, which is why they're here, showing off. Trying to find mood, trying to find moment, things like that. Y'all recognize that, I think, if you've been to White Sands. So different kinds of things. Continuing on my way. 2018, I got involved with some musician, got to do some album covers, which is a whole different thing. So again, work for hire. So I got to do some things, playing with various approaches and putting together things like that. So that's been a lot of fun. I really enjoy doing graphic layout. I might have enjoyed being a graphic designer, maybe. It's more fun when you get to do what you want. So 2019, I discovered flowers. This was the first year I went to the Georgetown area for poppies in April. Okay, I discovered we had poppies in Georgetown and went hog wild. So I took lots of pictures of poppies and trying to find different ways to express what I think about poppies and how you see poppies. Okay, still going back to the balloon fiesta, okay, that year. But going back, I finally realized with the balloon fiesta that repetition is a good thing. Going back to the same place is a good thing. So each year I go back to the balloon fiesta, I think about what am I going to do to approach this year photographically. So this year, for example, I wanted to think about the people. I wasn't as concerned about the balloons as I was about the people. The people are fun. They're walking around like this the whole time, right? They are not paying any attention to what's happening around them. It's hysterical. So if you're trying to put a balloon up in the air, they're walking around and there's ropes hanging in. You got to make sure that they don't run into your ropes, or you're driving a truck off the field and because I get out of my way, make a hole kind of thing. So the people are fun. They're doing stuff. They have a mounted police people from Albuquerque Police Department. So they'll be there some mornings. This was during the Star Spangled Banner. Kids on shoulders, with a shallow depth of field. This is one of my favorite ones. Sometimes your crew members help you out. So she was up on the truck looking at the balloons taking off, and I got a picture of her from behind. It's one of my favorite shots. And then everybody has a cell phone. Okay, so half the fun, or a big camera, half the fun is taking pictures of people taking pictures. For me, I think it's loads of fun. So it's a great study in human behavior. If you don't want to just take pictures of balloons, there's lots of different layers here at the Balloon Fiesta. So just very entertaining. All right. Move on to 2020. This was the first year at Guadalupe River State Park. This is one of my favorite pictures because there's mist. And we have not gotten that again since. So I don't know what the weather will be like this year. We'll find out, but we'll see what kind of conditions we get. Okay. This is another good example of repetition. I like going back to the state park every year to try to understand how to see the state park. Okay. And I see these cypress trees. I mean, y'all familiar with it, right? I mean, the cypress trees are huge, right? So you got these cypress trees over here and you're kind of going, how do I show that? In my head, I'm going, how do I show that? Because just a photograph of it is not really doing it justice. The reflections are great, the rocks are great, the trees are great. We get color, it's fantastic. How do you do stuff? So I keep going back year after year, trying different things. And I finally realized that what I like is the shapes. And it was black and white that I was missing. The color is not interesting, but the black and white's lots of fun. So I can take these pictures of these things and try to bring out what it is that I think is interesting about them. So this is the repetition part of it. Is like, I keep going back, I keep looking, I keep thinking, I keep trying, okay? And for me, very rewarding, okay? Despite the fact that all my photos suck, I find it very rewarding, okay? I like being there, I like going out, and I like trying things again and again and again, because the conditions are never the same more than once in a row. This time of year, I had a friend, he was in this club for a while, and I met him through this. He's up in Irving now, and he turned me on to podcasts. I did not have much knowledge about them, but he turned me on to this one here, this F-Stop Collaborate and Listen. So this guy, he's up to episode 450 odd. He's been doing this for a few years. He has turned into a fantastic host, and he has lots and lots of people on his show that don't just talk about landscapes, they talk about other things. So if you're going to listen to any podcast about photography that is about mostly landscape, but also other things, this is the one to look at, in my opinion. I think it's fantastic. The other one, if you want to talk about art, is Lenswork. Brooks Jensen has been doing publishing for over 30 years. He runs a podcast called Lenswork, and he does a daily thing. Most of the days are little short things, 3 to 5 minutes. Once a week, it's about a 12 to 20 minute episode, but it's very digestible. But he talks about things that you never think about. I listen to his, and I think that's fantastic. I want to talk about that now. So it's like there's great subjects that come up. Photography Online is my favorite show. They do videos once a month on YouTube. And they have very high production value, and they have a fantastic looking show. It's a fun show. They're great. They're from Scotland. They also do a podcast once a month as well on the off weeks, and they're fantastic as well. So they're lots of fun. Beyond the Lens, Richard Burnaby runs that podcast. Perceptive photographer is Daniel Gregory, who is usually involved in the Photoshop Virtual Summit, for example. He is a very, very good person when it comes to eloquently talking about photography. His daily things are about 15 to 17 minutes a pop. On Taking Pictures, a couple guys, they're not doing it now. It got shut down a few years ago, but there's about 325 episodes where you go back, and it's just two guys talking about stuff that is photography or around photography, and it's great to hear them talk. They're very interesting to listen to. And then Creative Banter is two other guys, both of which are still around, but they did about 3 years worth or so, about 150 episodes, I think, ish. And they talk about different things. But it's fun to hear them talk as well. So big fan of podcasts. I learned about this. So these guys have been absolutely fundamental in helping me understand more about the craft, the art and the craft of what I'm trying to do. Okay, and help get me thinking about things. So 2021, we're getting closer. Discovered the water lilies in San Angelo. Always a great thing to do, but now that we know there are water lilies in hill country, in the hill country, so you don't have to go quite as far. But lots of cool things and just doing different things and trying to understand water lilies. Again, repetition, I keep going back, trying different things, taking different approaches, looking at different things. Finally around here, the Minor White quote starts making sense, okay? He says, one should not photograph things for what they are, but for what else they are, okay? This quote is not about taking photographs of things, right? I'm going to get to the summary here in a moment in my way, okay? Dan McCullen said, photography for me is not looking, it's feeling. If you can't feel what you're looking at, then you're never going to get others to feel anything when they look at your pictures. It's about feelings, okay? Brian Peterson, shoot the adjective, not the noun. It's another way of putting the same thought. Edward Weston, this then, to photograph a rock, have it look like a rock, but be more than a rock. And for those of you who are aware, this is the name of a Guy Tall book, More Than a Rock, his first book on philosophy and art. Okay, highly regarded book on photography, the art of photography and philosophy. Don't shoot what it looks like, shoot what it feels like. So you got a theme here. So I'm finally getting this, and I finally figured out I'm not interested in the thing. I'm interested in the feelings. Okay, I met a photographer at the Austin Celtic Festival back in probably 2013, probably 2013. I think it was after my first trip with a buddy to Albuquerque. And he was a great guy. He was from Scotland. Forget his name. Great guy. And we got talking about photography. And I showed him a few of my shots, and he was very gracious, but very to the point, and very well received. And it was interesting this is kind of the kernel of my understanding of this idea in that it's not about the thing. It's about making an emotional connection to the image, right? And we hear about that a lot. But it took a while for me to really get that, okay? And it keeps coming back to me, and I keep thinking about that. And it's really where it's at with photography is if your reader can't make that emotional connection, or if your viewer rather cannot make the emotional connection, they're going to go, okay, and move on, right? The goal is somehow making, and the hard part of that is also understanding not everyone's going to do that, right? Because we all have different tastes, we all have different perspectives, we all have different preferences. Some people are going to make that connection, some people are not, all right? And some people will look at picture A and go, whereas somebody over here might look at picture A and go, that's fantastic, but they'll look at picture B and go, eh. Whereas over here, those people are great about picture B, right? Everybody has a different opinion, okay? So I'm finally getting this in my head and thinking about, okay, this is the goal. And of course, when you realize what the goal is, the bar just gets higher, right? It just gets higher and higher and higher, okay? That doesn't stop me. Caddo Lake, having fun at Caddo Lake and doing different things with landscape. These are examples of taking a picture with a camera with a very dirty sensor and putting lipstick on a pig, okay? The images are horrible to look at, okay? But I put them through some artistic software and messed with them to try to get something out of it. Yes, I didn't know it until I got home because I wasn't looking at them. But yes, I had borrowed a friend's camera. My Z9 was in the shop that year. I had borrowed a friend's camera and not cleaned the sensor. Did I learn to clean the sensor before every trip? No. Okay, because I've been bit by this again because I'm not very smart. But I took the images and worked with them, and I got stuff I'm really happy with. Yeah, I pushed the colors a lot just to get the color out. It took a lot of work. I sold a copy of that to a friend. He bought a big print of this one. It's on his dining room wall. It's beautiful. Still back to macro photography, looking for tiny things. Looking for tiny things. Looking for tiny things. Okay. Okay. So looking for random things that don't necessarily catch people's attention. Looking for light. Love flowers and bees. You know, this is all local stuff that I took. Magnolia. That was in Zilker one year. So just kind of going through stuff. We went to Door County last year, and there's a rock. There's a beach on the I guess on the northern part of no, it's on the island. It's on the island that you take the ferry over to. And all the rocks are river rocks. They've all been softened by the water. So they all have rounded edges. So I'm walking around going, literally, and until I found something that, okay, if I do this, then I think that's an interesting composition. So I think it's reasonably interesting, okay? But I only had a few minutes to do this. Otherwise, I probably would have spent all day walking on the beach going, let's find the right composition and not make the composition, just find it. This is a sink in a condo. It was made out of glass, and I thought it was really cool. So, okay. Long exposure on the beach in Galveston, Mustang Island, yeah. Looking for light on the horizon, things like that. Long exposures. You see some of our Hokkaido stuff, long exposures, multiple exposures, ICM. What you're seeing here is where I'm trying to go now, right? I'm trying to get away from the concrete and into the idea of things. So I want to get ideas across and get people to engage in what is it I'm looking at. So trying different things here. So lots and lots of fun, reflections. This was fun. This is a multiple exposure, but I lined it up on the leaf. All 6 of them line up on the leaf, so the leaf is in focus. Nothing else is. You know, stuff like that, little fountain, rodeo, what have you. So found out you can do portraits with multiple exposures, which is fun. You just go and line the eyes up, or the eye, at least one eye kind of stuff. So different kind of approach. So different things, having fun with the bands again. He has way too many hands. No, he sounded like that though. Literally, he sounded like he had that many hands. He was fantastic. He was a joy. And along this way, we're almost done here. Along this way, I ran across this quote by Henri Cartier-Bresson. It says, "Sharpness is a bourgeois concept." Okay, my version of it is sharpness is overrated. Okay, so if you go back to Ansel Adams, and I don't have this written down, but Ansel Adams said, "There's nothing worse than a sharp photo of a fuzzy concept." And there's a lot of truth to that. If you get the concept across, even with a technically inept photograph, there's a lot to be said for that. A lot of Henri Cartier's stuff is not technically amazing. It's some of the stuff people go gaga over. I initially started going, that's annoying to look at this. Like I look at this like, why do people go nuts over this? But it's taken me, I mean, what, we're in 2025 now, so 10, 12 years to finally get to the point where I understand some of this stuff. And it's very hard, at least at my age when I started, to not have opinions about things. You all know me well enough to know that, I think, okay, to be fair, okay? And so the goal is for me to try to put myself aside and try to understand what else is going on around me. And that can be very challenging. It's very rewarding as well. But I think it plays into photography very, very well. It plays into a lot of things, but it plays well into photography, okay? Final thought is that, you know, we hear a lot about, well, we don't go shoot in the midday, right? We go shoot, and this is just parting thought here is all this is. We don't go shoot in the midday because the light is harsh. We like to shoot in the golden hour. We like to shoot in the blue hour. We like to shoot it when the light is softer and it wraps around things and it's all very gentle and pleasant. Did you see the clouds coming in tonight? Did you see the clouds coming in? Were they not fantastic? You know, it's like, yes, we all love that. It's fantastic. But I think John has it right here. There's no such thing as bad light. Just, wait.
We don't go out and shoot at midday because it's freaking hot outside.
Well, yes, I get that. I get that. So there's no such thing as bad light, just misunderstood light, right? Pardon?
Mad dogs meet.
That go out in the midday sun. Yes, they do. I did that song in high school. So I think this is really to the point here is that the other thing that has been the lesson for me is work with what you've got. Work with the light that you've got, not with the light that you want. Work with the light that you've got. So I'm okay with going out and shooting whenever, heat notwithstanding, because I'm trying to accept that let's just look for what's available. You know, midday shadows. Other times, not so much shadows, or shadows that are different, or shadows that have a different effect or whatever. So I think this is an important takeaway for all of us as photographers. But again, it's taken me 13 years of shooting to get to the point where I finally begin to understand this and I can take advantage of it. So that was really all I wanted to say is the takeaway for me is not, like I said, not how great my shots are, but going through this and utilizing repeated visits to places, experimenting with different subject matter, different genres, trying different things, not being afraid of less than technically excellent images, you know, trying to take advantage of the hardware so it does the thing you want it to do. Experimenting, you know, I love that we're doing ICM and multiple exposures now. It's a thing. It's becoming a thing. I don't know if you're paying attention, but it's becoming a thing. It's not just us. But I think it's a good thing because it's really about expressing yourself photographically, and your feelings about things, and trying to get away from the concrete, um, and look for some way to make a connection with somebody that doesn't rely on, isn't that a pretty flower? Okay, not that I don't like pretty flowers. I obviously like pretty flowers, right? But there's more to it than the pretty flower. It's like, I need to capture how I feel about the flower and express that in the image. And hopefully somebody else might see that. And if they do, then that's great. Hopefully I'll be successful at that. We'll see what happens, but I still have fun despite my bar. Despite my bar being very high, I still have fun. I love doing this. I love photography. I love that it's going to take me through the rest of my life. It's something I'm going to continue doing as long as I'm alive. I don't think I'll ever get bored with it. So yeah, it's good stuff. I love what we do. So
Are you open for questions now?
I am absolutely open for questions.
Okay, we've got the mic here, so I hope everybody will have a question. I'm curious as to how you keep track of your experiments. Do you keep a journal? Do you do most of it while you're on site and then do more in post-production? And do you give yourself assignments? How do you feel about, or
Wow.
can you describe a little bit about what you do over these years and how it changed? That's a
Okay,
big question.
that's a very good question. How do I keep track of what I'm doing? And there's a bit of a problem here in that while I don't have an eidetic memory, I have a very good memory. And so I remember most of what I've done. I remember most of where I was and when it was. My Lightroom catalog is based on dates, and I put down locations in my folder names. But I pretty much remember where everything is. I'm terrible at keywording. I don't keyword anything to any great degree. So I will go off and I will do something, and then I'll tuck it into a folder. But I'll probably the next time out do something completely different. Okay, so I won't stick with one thing. I let my mood control and my goals. Okay, so my mood and my goals have to match, right? So if I were going to shoot a band, and I showed here, so I discovered this band back in 2014. I got introduced to them, and so I've shot them multiple times. I've got 20, 30 folders of images for this band, but it was only this year where I thought, oh, let's try multiple exposures. Let's try something different, because I didn't know about the technique, and I didn't think about, even if I had, I wouldn't have applied the technique, because I'm trying to do something different. So it's just an evolutionary thing to figure out what might work where. And as I mentioned, the portraiture with the multiple exposure, that's a new thing. I want to do more of that because I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting. And then I'll do something, I'll go off and do something else, and I'll go, oh, let's go try this again, kind of thing, come back to it in practice. So it's a ad hoc iterative process. Does that make sense? It's and whatever mood strikes me. It's whatever mood strikes me. But this is the reason why I like repeating visits to places, right? Because I go back, I can try different things, right? I've got some new idea that, oh, what if I do this, right? So I can go back and do something. So I think repeated visits are very beneficial for exploring not just the subject matter, but your approach to the subject matter. And so I'm a big fan of repeated visits. As much as you can get away with, right? You know, sometimes trips are hard. Vertical flowers are great.
I totally agree with going back to the same spot, because I found, just like you said, that you may come there and one day it's raining, one day it's sunny, one day the snow's there.
Because of
And
weather.
I've done that, and it really works differently. You see different things. Yeah.
You don't. So I never let the weather prevent me from doing stuff insofar as I can stay hydrated in this weather, in this state, when it's hot. Okay, rain doesn't slow me down, wind doesn't slow me down. It's like, oh, let's just try it, you know, kind of thing. It's like, hey, you don't know what you're going to get. You know, I've gotten some great stuff in the rain. You know, as we went to Zilker one time for a photo walk back in 22. I think it was 22. I scheduled one in the spring. And we went down there and it was drizzly. Nobody was there. And it was the best time ever because there's all these water droplets all over everything. And it's going, and nobody's walking around bothering you. It was like, it was fantastic. So yeah, I'm a big fan of repeated visits. Absolutely. Anything else? Oh, Arlie's got one.
Just a comment. One of your first quotes on there was, "My photography is getting better and better." I think that's a great starting point for everyone because I can identify with that, and it keeps you, it allows you to continue to improve. It doesn't
Everybody
stop
should
you.
feel that way.
So I think it's just a great quote.
Yeah, I think being able to say, I'm getting better and better at what I do goes, is the whole root thing, right? We don't learn by being successful, we learn by not being successful, and then we get better at what we do, right? You know, my add-on to that is harsh because that's the way I treat myself. Nobody's meaner to me than me, you know, and
Same
it's
for
not a good,
everybody else.
not a good thing. I know it's not good. I know it's not good.
Everybody's that way.
I should-
Everybody's our own worst
I should get some
critic.
help. I should get some help.
Gary says mean things.
Pardon? What? What? Yeah, Gary says mean things to himself about himself. So yeah, yeah. We all should recognize that even if we go out and we shoot at a photo walk or whatever, we walk home, we go, there's nothing here I love. You're still learning and you're still successfully figuring out what it is you want to do, right? So there's no failure is not bad. Failure is not bad. Failure is part of being human. It is the way we operate. And I don't think we emphasize that enough as a culture. Okay. Certainly not enough in the artistic areas. Okay. You know, if I'm an engineer, right? I've written lots of code. It's like, oh, well, that broke. Let's do that again. You know, it's like I screwed something up, and it's like you fix it and you move on. So that's the approach we need to have when we're talking about photographs. So, in my opinion. So, oh, Larry's got one. Yes, sir.
Yeah, back on revisiting things, how
Yeah.
often do you go back through your catalog just because you're in what I like personally call a mood? Because you just feel differently and you want to look over things because you just feel different at that moment and peruse through what you have and see how differently you see it.
Not
mean-
nearly enough. I think is the best way to put it, is not nearly enough, because when I do sit down and kind of wander through, like I had to for this, right? I'm going back through all my stuff going, well, what do I want to do here? And there's stuff I would go back and like, okay, I maybe want to take a different run at this as far as processing goes, you know, or this is interesting and I've got an idea for a project that collects things. I should go and I'll go make a collection and start pulling things in. So, and I'll rabbit hole in various ways. But no, I don't do it nearly enough. I'm very bad about, I'm like a photo dragon. I like to collect shiny things, more and more shiny things.
Because I've found a lot
Just to have the shiny things. Yeah.
you have, because the bar is so high, you have expectations when you go to shoot.
Yeah.
And you go and you look, get home, and you think, okay, I got this good stuff. I got this good stuff. And you're like, I don't like this. And then 6 months later, you open it up and you look, oh, that was way better than I thought it was.
And that absolutely happens. I should give myself more opportunity to do that, because I believe that's a very common thing. Brooks Jensen has talked about that as well. It's like, you're not, so the way he puts it is, you're out shooting. You just go out and you shoot, right? You're not shooting to make pictures. You're shooting to gather assets. And then you go back and look at the assets to see what you got, right? And do something with them, whether it's here's an image or here's a collection or here's a little grouping or whatever. You kind of work with that. Oh, this and this go together. Let's put these into something, kind of thing. Okay. So it's a mindset that I don't think we as a community focus on nearly well enough, and appreciate when it comes to going out and taking pictures, you know. Plus, I like just getting out and taking pictures as well. I think we need to do more of that. As far as I have more time than a lot of people, so you know, it's unfair of me to comment on that. You know, so those of us who have a day job have more limits on their time, unfortunately. You know, so anyways, but yeah, more would be better. So, yeah. Okay. Anything else? Okay. How do? Hey. 45 minutes, good for me. Whoosh. All right.
Gary, thank you. Thank you. This was inspiring.
Pardon me?
This was inspiring. to
Oh,
hear
oh,
your story.
great.
As
Good.
way you work through this.
Thank you. Thank you. That's the goal. It's like, you know, so I just got back from Albuquerque. I'll tell one more story and I'll stop. I just got back from,
How about two?
pardon?
How about two?
Well, maybe we'll see. So I just got back from Albuquerque for the Balloon Fiesta again, because it's what I do. And I told my wife, as long as I can stand and do stuff, I'm going to go because I have so much fun. This trip, I got to go up to Ashislapa, which is a Native American sacred area between Bistoy Badlands and Chaco Canyon. It's a little bit northwest of Albuquerque, and did some late night astro up there, which was fun. And I went to Kashakatue, which is another. It's Kashakatue is the only slot canyon in New Mexico. Okay, so you walk through in a slot canyon, and it's very, very cool. The wind was particularly bad. And then I got to visit friends. I got to crew for 5 days. I got a balloon flight this year. Currently, everyone else thought the wind was too high and they weren't going to risk it. And I said, sign me up. I will always go. It turned out that my friend is a fantastic, it wasn't my usual pilot. It was another guy, a friend of his, but he's a fantastic pilot. And we got off the ground. We are cruising literally over the rooftops, waving at people having their coffee. Okay, he likes to fly right over the rooftops. It's like, okay, whatever, because the other guy likes to go up high. So we're going there, and then he's like, okay, we're gonna land over there. We landed, it was like one bounce and stopped. It was like, it was fantastic. It was like, even though the wind was bad and he struggled once he was down to get the balloon under control, it was probably one of the better landings I've ever had. It was like, this is great. So it was, anyways, lots and lots of fun. Point of my story. Okay, so I had dinner with another friend I used to work with here in Austin. He's in Albuquerque. I got to have dinner with him a couple times, seeing old friends that she and my wife went to high school together. Okay, so we go way back, right? And we've known them since shortly after they were married, so 40 years. Oh, actually, no, I've known them longer than my wife. Yeah, I met them before I met my wife. Yeah, so a long time, over 43 years. So the pilot that flew me on my flight, we first met 10 or 12 years ago on a trip, and then they live in Kansas City, and so after that they would visit, and I would miss it. I would visit, he would miss it, whatever. So we haven't hooked up. So the first time we got to hook up together at the same visit in about 12 years, and nobody doesn't like him. He's like a Labrador. Everybody loves him. He's just the greatest guy ever. He's immediately likable. He's one of those people. He knows everybody. And even if you've never met him, he knows you. You know, he's a wonderful, wonderful guy. Lots of fun. We get along really well. We'd probably be dangerous if we lived in the same place. Get into trouble, but he's a great guy. And so I spent a lot of time this week being a little melancholy over not getting to spend as much time with my friends as I'd like to, and thinking about stuff. But I appreciate that this work gives me an excuse to go do something that gives me the opportunity to see these people that I might not, well, I never took before. Until I got into photography, I didn't go back to Albuquerque. I think we went back twice with the kids when they were little, and then that was it, This is a fantastic avenue for opening doors to do things that you might not otherwise do. And I think that if you let that happen, you never know where it's going to take you. And I am incredibly grateful for what this has done for me. So, yes, sir.
So let's jump off into, I believe you had a gallery or a show that you put together in Georgetown,
I did.
and you haven't mentioned that. And is it still up? And can you tell us about the challenge you gave to yourself to make that gallery show?
Sure. So second story. Bill wanted to. Okay. So second story. I'm gonna get some more. Let me grab some water real quick because I'm getting dried out here. So I was in the Georgetown Library on display up until I took it down the first weekend of October, last weekend of September. So it's down. But it was lots and lots of fun. One of the things I did was I made a book. Okay, so after the exhibit got put up, and I'll talk about that more in just a moment, I decided to give myself another challenge of figuring out how to sequence a book, which it turns out is a lot harder than you'd think, as this is like the third iteration. But I'm really glad I did it because it taught me some things about layout and how to put stuff together. And I think I did fairly good. I mean, not many people looked at it yet. You're welcome to take a look at it. And you're welcome to tell me what you think. I'm very happy with the quality from Blurb. It cost a lot. They're not cheap. But this was lots of fun. I had a good time. The exhibit was great. Patrick's going through this right now because he's got one coming up. But so it was, I did it because I wanted the challenge of doing a project with a theme I felt strongly about. So as you saw, this is called All Things Come to an End. It's about the end of life cycle as opposed to beginning or middle. And it turns out that applies to pretty much everything because nothing's permanent, right? So the goal here was to try to take that theme and explore as much variety as I could. So I knew I got in last year, so I had a year of collecting things and trying different things. Sitting down and so I think when I sat down, I collected like 120 images, and because I large area to fill it, but I collected about 120 images. And I went through them and tossed out about 30. And I printed everything else in little 4x6s and laid them out on the table. And my wife and I went through them, and I was like, doing that? Nope, just kind of throwing things away. So it was a fun exercise there. Getting it down to 65 or so, 70. And then I said, okay, I'm going to do this. And I kind of think about what's going to fit on the walls. Mostly I did small prints instead of big prints. And then I printed 67 pieces. And then I had to go hang them in the gallery at the library, which was really hard, it turns out. But I did that. And in the end, it was about a 6-hour project. I think about 5-6 hours it took me to do it. It was all day. In the end, I was very happy with the way it looked. Everything made sense visually to me. And I got lots of really good feedback from the galleries, the library staff. I had people make comments to the staff. Apparently only one person said it was sad. Everybody else thought it was good, but one person said it was sad. Like, yeah, we don't talk about this stuff enough. But it was good. Sold a few pieces, nothing major. But it actually sold a couple pieces. And yeah, just enjoyed it. As I went to take it down a couple weeks ago, and I had a couple people come up to me and start talking to me about the result, the exhibit, and how much they thought the work was great. It was very, very heartwarming to hear people compliment that they liked what I did. So that was very, very nice. I think everybody should put themselves through that pain. If you want to grow as a photographer, you don't get better by not raising the bar on yourself. And if you have an idea for a project, I think we all need to do projects because I think it's a great way to force yourself to grow and get yourself out of your comfort zone, you know, in a different way than walking around with a camera and taking pictures of people on the street is. You know, it's a different kind of comfort thing, but it was great. So yeah, the other club, Image Creators, we have an exhibit for January and February. We're in for next year. You are hanging in a few weeks at the library. One of the guys from the other club is hanging in February or March, I think. I think he's got one coming up next year. I already have an idea for 27 that I'll be submitting. Try to get something else, something a little bit more Georgetown focused, which I think goes over well, it sells well. So, yeah, I think it's great. It's hard and it's good. It's hard in a good way. So, anyways, I don't know if that made any sense at all. Just rambling at this point. So. Anything else? Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Say that, it's very inspiring, like Bill said. Thank you for being our speaker tonight.
Oh.
I think we're done yet. Patrick, say something.
No, yeah. I love to talk about photography, you can tell.
And being prompted, I have to do this, I guess. Okay, so Gary's mentioned that I've got a show coming up, and it is at the Georgetown Library. I'm hanging the show on the 5th of November, and the reception is on Friday evening at 4 to 6 on the 14th. And the topic is New Mexico, a retrospective. And so what you saw, I don't know, about a year or so back, I've added to it, improved the images, reprocessed a lot of them. And so it added a bunch of stuff to it from my archives. You were talking about going back through and finding things. I'm looking at stuff from 15 or plus years back and going, oh my God, that actually works, you know? And then I look at some and go, that's why it's still sitting in the file. So yeah, it doesn't always work. So, but yeah, please, you're all invited. I hope to see you there. Now I got to figure out about if I want to do a book. I don't think so. Yeah, I don't know, but thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Gary, thank you again, sir.
You're very welcome. But are we out?